Good evening and welcome to the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee meeting of January 23rd, 2025 here in Memorial Hall at Town Hall. This is our 15th meeting of fiscal 2025. It is a hybrid meeting, so I need to read the following. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with the applicable law. This means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the location in the posted agenda, and it is possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely, with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed remotely via the link in the posted agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28, Charter Channel 192, or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/WestboroughTV. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed by Westborough TV, and we thank them for their support. Okay, we have now 6 members here, so we are fully quorate, and we can start with public comment. And I know we'll start here first. Joanne Armini, is that right? Yes. Okay.
Good evening. Thank you. Joanne Aramini, 7 Meadow Road.
Can't quite hear you. Maybe we'll try the other one.
Okay? This one's better?
I don't know.
That one?
I guess so.
It's got a green light?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you're coming through.
Now you're
Okay.
good.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Yep.
Joanne Aramini, 7 Meadow Road. I'm here this evening to talk about the B-Walt project. It's a big project in town. It's a complicated project, and it costs a whole ton of money. And I don't think that the residents in town really have a thorough understanding of what the project is and exactly what the costs are going to be. One of my concerns is that a feasibility study was done for this project, and I believe that it is a biased study, but regardless of that, the study was done in the midst of COVID. I don't think it really reflects what our world is right now. And it doesn't include, I don't think it has an accurate cost. It doesn't include maintenance costs and a lot of other things in it. In addition, the feasibility study has never been presented to the town in its entirety as a whole. We've been told that because it's been posted on the website that it's there, but that's not a discussion by the public as far as I'm concerned. And instead, what's been happening is that bits and pieces of this trail goes to town meeting, different articles, different bits of money, and never has the entire project and the entire trail been presented in relation to that little piece of the article. So we don't really feel that people have an understanding of what's going on. We had a meeting last Thursday, January 16th, and an elderly gentleman got up and asked the question, how much is this going to cost the town? And the answer was, we don't know. That doesn't sound fiscally responsible to me at all. What we keep hearing is that grants are going to pay for it, grants are going to pay for it. Well, grants is still our money, number one, it's not free. Number two, grants are not 100%, and none of the grants that have been used for this project have been 100%, and grants are not guaranteed. And in fact, there was just a discussion at the selectmen meeting last Tuesday about the Otis Street corridor project. I don't know if you know about that, where the lights are. Well, that's part of B-Walt. They didn't mention the name B-Walt, but it's part of B-Walt. There's a $1.5 million funding that they didn't get, that they wrote a letter to ask the governor to put it in the state capital budget. I don't know if we're going to see that money. I'm not familiar with that process, whether we've ever done it before, whether we've ever gotten money from that before, and at the very least, we're a sanctuary state anyway, so I'm not sure what we'll be getting. And also, this project for Section 1 was estimated to cost $5.5 million and is now $9 million. So there's a $3.5 million funding gap with this project. So who knows where that money is coming from? And I hope it's not going to be the taxpayers. And at any rate, if the taxpayers don't pay that, what happens to that project? The project just stops, and so all of the money that we've spent is for naught. We don't have it. So I'm concerned about that. I don't know if any articles are going to be coming to your committee or not, but I did email Chairman Leslie a bunch of information about all of the concerns that we have, which are much more than financial, but I think financial is extremely important given inflation and our tax rate and all of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Fred? Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, I'll give it to him when I see them. Oh, yeah, that's probably, if you want to email that, that'd be better, then the people that aren't here can get those.
Wilfred Savoy, 41 Chestnut Street. My purpose is to emphasize the financial burden of many of the citizens in Westborough, squeezed between inflationary costs and the anticipated increases in the FY26 budget. We just received in the last couple of weeks some estimates of the tax increases, which approach, at this point, tentatively over $1,000 increase in the property tax for the average homeowner. And we know that the financial inflation that we've been experiencing over the last 4 years, groceries up 25%, energy costs 35%, overall inflation 20%. So the average taxpayer, the average citizen in the state, in the town, is really being squeezed and facing a significant burden. One of the ways in which we could realize some additional revenue or help the situation with the taxes is through a realistic estimate of the local receipts. The budget is basically established. The town budget is level services, add capital costs, subtract anticipated receipts, and whatever's left over, the taxpayer pays for it. The local receipt piece is critical, and the estimate of that is critical. So I'm showing you a couple of things here on the charts. Chart 1 shows that Westborough has the highest amount of local receipts of any of the comparison towns. That would be the fourth column. First column being the town's tax levy, state aid, and local receipts. Over 18 million estimated in 2024. So that is receipts that come into the town, and that estimate is subtracted from the costs of the general fund, the budget that's put together. And their chart that shows, again, Westborough being the highest of the 15 comparative towns. The next chart shows a lot of the local receipts that come in, anywhere from motor vehicle excise tax to meals tax to rental tax. All of this comes in. And Department of Revenue shows for 2023, the estimate was 17.5 million, and the actual came in at 21.6 million. So that's a 23% I'll call it an error, but an underestimation. That's a considerable amount of money. The estimate for 2024 was 18.9, and the next chart would show that it came in at 22.2. That's a 17.4% discrepancy. So what you're looking at on that third chart is estimate versus actual. And the trend is that the difference is getting larger. Now, where does that money go? Where does the difference go? It goes into free cash. It should be used to reduce the taxes for the homeowners. But the estimate is underestimated. And there should be a more accurate way or additional attention paid to this. Right now, for 2025, the estimate is 19.8 million. It'll probably come in $2 or $3 million more. And again, that money should be going to reduce the taxes. So I'm pointing this out, simply make you aware of this. The town in their budget is looking at the estimate versus the actual. They have a little different take on this in the sense that the difference goes into free cash and then usually gets spent somewhere or held there to have a good tax rating or what do I want to say, a rating for borrowing rating. So I just bring this to your attention. This is one way in which the taxes could be reduced by paying more attention to the estimate versus the actual. The final chart shows you that the third line, the starred line down there, if there's any excess or shortfalls in local revenues, it goes into the free cash. And then when you try to use that out of free cash to reduce the tax rate, well, we know what happened last year. We didn't get, there wasn't that much support coming out of free cash. But that money going into free cash is taxpayer money. So I showed this to you. I'm offering one other possibility in terms of tax release for the taxpayer. Under action step, the second paragraph talks about a underride petition. Prop 2.5 offers a number of different options to towns, one being an override. When you reach a certain point, you can override your tax levy limit. But there's also a provision in the Prop 2.5 where you can put in an underride. Now, there's one of our 15 communities had 3 underrides in 2015, 2017, and 2018 and 2020. And they were all successful by simply putting in a reduction in how much taxes can be raised by the town. It's called an underride. Now that can get in the can be operationalized by the select board, by them putting in a question, a ballot question, by reducing the amount of money that can be raised from taxation. If that is not possible, or they're reluctant to do that, you can put in, the taxpayers can put in a local petition. So anyone can put it, and you have to go through that local petition process, and it gets into the, on the election question, becomes an election question. So those are 2 other options that are out there. But I would just simply say that the citizens, the taxpayers are getting squeezed, and I would ask that the finance committee do everything it can to reduce that the tax levy on the taxpayers. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Kevin, did you want to say something? Come on up.
Good evening, members of the board. Kevin Barry, 8 Indian Pond Road. Actually, kind of funny that I let this gentleman kind of slide in between us, but I think a lot of the stuff we're talking about has a direct correlation to what he just spoke about. I've been partnered up with Joanne as far as this project goes and doing research and work. And I'm kind of more of the dig-in research guy and the financials guy. So I think I'm just going to make it short and simple so I won't take too much of your time. I know you got an agenda to work towards. But for the most part, I'm hoping to speak to this board on a level that hasn't been heard on the other boards and other committees and town officials we've spoken about, is fiscal responsibility, as this gentleman reported. I've done a spreadsheet on this project. It dates back to 2012. 2013 technically, and out of the funds he just referred to as free cash and open space funds, this project had 8 different town articles with limited reference as far as what the actual project was that already totaled $366,144 has spent out of town funds, on top of whatever grant funding they've got. So as far as that goes, so far there really hasn't been shovel to ground. They've already spent $750 and change thousand for design work on this project that most of the town is not aware of. I think a simple thing now is we have a section that has, so for the most part, the first feasibility study came up with a total cost of this project, which is 7.5 miles, plus another spurs and stuff. It was $4.8 million. It got scrapped because people weren't happy with it, the originators or creators of it. It then exploded to $24.4 million, plus another $10 million to get connectivity to Southborough is what has to happen. You have to do a tunnel under 495. So now, in essence, most of those numbers were estimated and design work and little dribs and drabs for the most part. But now we have section 2 of this project, and if you're not familiar with it, it's a section from Otis Street over to Park Street. It's 1.67 miles. So now they just did a 25% design study. They spent $550,000 on that design study, have the receipts and all that stuff. Then they came back with they need to do some more additional work, and then obviously the projected cost for that. So now, bottom line is 1.67 miles of this trail, and I'm not saying rail trail, it's a trail, it's electric trolley line, is projected to cost $7.133 million. For 1.67 miles. So that's $4.3 million a mile. Now, as far as research, you look at any rail trail conversion, the average cost is $1 to $2 million. So this is more than 2 times double the cost for 1.67 miles. And a lot of the presentation that was given at a joint meeting before referred to a lot of different trails, and I did research on all the different trails they referenced. So just to give you a couple snippets, for example, the Minuteman Trail that they referred to in Lexington, it's 11 miles. That cost $8 million total. 11 miles for $8 million. Cape, a lot of people refer to you go down the Cape, you ride the rail trails down there. The Falmouth Shining Sea Trail has a couple different segments. That's $10.7 million. It costs a total of $9.5 million. So now we have a 7+ mile, 7.5, that they're projecting to cost 25 and change $1 million, plus another 10, so it's 35 realistically. It's not finished yet. We've already been over budget on section 5, which is over in West Park Drive. Now the project over at Otis Street is over budget as well. So who's to say that's not going to happen in this project? So on top of that is they're asking for matching funds with different grants that they get, but who's to say we don't get those grants? We just had an administration change. Who knows if things are going to change? So just in real terms, that's a lot of money to be spent with not a lot of possibles and possibilities as far as grants. So I wanted that to kind of illustrate what we're talking about as amongst all the other issues. But I think as far as fiscal responsibility, we need to take a look at that. And people are not listening thoroughly on it. Hopefully, respectfully, you can kind of take a look at that. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by. Okay, we've run out of people here that can speak at public forums, so we will move on to the next agenda item, which is annual town meeting prep. And so first thing I'd like to do is we now are at version 2 of the warrant. So I want to take a quick walk through the warrant and decide which ones we need to have guests for, if we can. We definitely, maybe, or for sure not kind of thing. So Article 1, I can say for sure we don't need any guests because we don't even vote on it because it's the town election. Okay, and town reports, we probably, since it's our article, I would think we wouldn't need guests. So Prior year bills, there are none now, so that would be a no until there are some, if there were some, and I'm sure we'd hear about it. Article 4 is if we wanted to increase our reserve fund. At this time, it doesn't seem likely, because we've only spent a small amount at our last meeting, and so far, snow and ice is doing okay, at least according to the reports that we get. But anyway, we have the warrant will close at the end of February, so we can think about it, see what happens between now and then. Snowmageddon. Okay, so anyway, I don't think we need a guess for that one yet, so. Legal expenses, we don't know what the amount is, but I guess ultimately we'd like to hear from the town manager on that if we don't at the meeting, right? Okay. And also a plan of, we seem to be adding this every year now, but the budget isn't big enough kind of thing. They keep thinking they're gonna get out of that, but I don't know.
When's the last time the town had a town council?
Not that many years ago.
Yeah, I would be curious, so I would be curious to hear sort of what the plan is, what the amount is.
Yeah.
But then to see, at what point does it make sense to actually have,
Well, the advantage
dedicated
to
town
having
council.
the companies are you get expertise in the many different areas of law
Yeah,
versus.
you'd wind up hiring outside counsel
Right,
for
you're gonna
almost
hire
all
bottom
of
counsel
these
regardless.
things
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, we could have that discussion, and maybe that's part on Thursday or another time. Okay, obviously the operating budgets, we're gonna need, we have to break that up into all the different groups. Yeah, no, yeah, that's a rubber stamp, but, we start off on a week from Thursday with the all-day thing, and then we'll see what we need after that. Okay. And, okay, this special ed reserve fund certainly needs more discussion. We may cover it enough on next Thursday, because they are presenting,
well,
but,
we sort of talked about it a little bit too, so I think Beth and I could probably give some context also, but it might be worth just having the school come in.
yeah.
So we're gonna have them
We'll probably have them here anyway again, so, yes, probably a guest on that, but I guess we'll see. Okay, next up right now is Waste Management Enterprise Fund. We certainly want to hear about that.
Who presents on that?
I don't know.
Or is it gonna be a whole separate?
I would assume that.
I think what they want to do,
It's just a,
it might be the finance department. I think
Yeah.
what they want to be able to do is roll the money back in from the things they collect into
Right.
waste management.
those are like the bag fees and the sticker fees,
Right, so it can directly,
rather than into the general fund.
right now they're
But
going
I
to.
would like to hear more about
Yeah,
that.
right, obviously.
So if we don't hear about it enough at the budget summit,
We'll bring in, and like you said, I suspect, since select board, but I think it's really a finance department thing,
that's
or
my
Christie.
sense.
Westborough TV, we probably want to hear more about. It's not the usual just transferring 300,000. There's some amount of, because of enough people cutting the cord and the expenses going up, that you have to decide whether you want to fund some of it for all these public meetings or not. And so I think there's going to be a portion of this article that would include some amount of money, not just the transfer, which is new this year. I did see the TV group present at the select board and the discussion. And certainly, we realize a great value from the ability to use them, so.
So you're saying that
So
there'll be additional funds above and beyond the 300 that would be a raise
So the
appropriate?
300, yes, it would have to
Okay,
be
so the-
RNA or free
Yeah,
cash or
so
whatever. it's
so
from,
that'll
but
be a
it's from-
revised article,
so-
you're
Well, it
expecting.
actually says that already, doesn't it?
No, it
No.
just has 300
It just says the 300.
And further to raise appropriate sum of money. So it just says sum of money.
That is-
The amount isn't
Oh,
there
right,
yet,
the amount's not there. Yeah,
but
yeah,
that's
yeah.
why it
Okay.
got moved
Oh.
out
Yeah,
of the regular recurring articles to a separate
Okay.
article.
Yep.
Anyway, that's why I wanted to point out, it is one that we normally would say, well, we don't have to hear about that. You're moving funds from Verizon and Charter
Giving you
to
your
this
money, your
budget.
money.
But
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year, it is a big deal.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we will want guests from Westborough TV and also a better definition of the amounts. Community Preservation Program budget, we'll be interested in that when that has more detail, yes.
Yep.
Although they may just have the administrative fee and not spend something, but I still probably want to hear about it, right? Yeah. Okay, regular recurring articles. These are the ones which we might hit. I did flip the page, but I ended up right back where it was. I have to actually turn the page. Okay, the reserve funds, we don't need a guest. So that's okay. Restocking, you want a guest? I mean, we can talk about it.
I mean-
don't know how much guest we need.
You know, maybe it's at the budget summit, but again, for both Sandra Pond and the block party, I would strongly suggest that they just build that into the recreation budget.
Can we do that? Please. I agree.
I mean, you know,
So
if
the
the recreation
argument
department
was that
decides that
the-
it's something they should do, then
The argument
They
was
should
like
do
the
it.
block party, if they decide not to have it, then the department has the money. But like, you're gonna stock the pond, and if you decide not to have the block party, it's not like this is $50,000. It's $4,000 in the
If it gets
budget, and
canceled
you're
for rain,
responsible-
theoretically, you could use that amount the
Have a
next year.
different event.
But,
or close it out to free cash at the end of the year.
Right.
What difference does it make?
Right.
Right. Or say it got rained out, so we're gonna have a Labor Day party instead, and
That's crazy talk.
that's Marlboro. Marlboro has a Labor Day parade.
do they have a Labor Day party?
Yeah, big parade, everything.
Okay,
I used
so
to live there.
maybe not Labor Day.
All right.
Sorry.
Don't take it, you want to compete. Okay,
I agree with that 100%.
I mean,
anyway,
you know,
I think
I don't think there's much appetite to do it, but that would be my suggestion.
But I think we're going
Again,
to tell them every year until
Right.
it stops showing up as a separate item.
in either case, we don't need a specific guest to that because that we could express to the town manager, who
Yeah.
probably does this anyway. Yeah. If it's that recurring, why have it there?
Right.
Maybe because we pay for it for free cash, so people think it's less money. Because these come out of free cash, and you have the option not to do it. But I suspect that's
Yeah.
part of it. Is this
It's a way to lower
general
costs.
philosophy that free cash means you don't look at it as carefully, which is a
But-
bad argument,
You look
Is
at it more
it-
carefully because it's identified.
right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's called a, I mean, I
Yeah.
get what you're saying, right? Because people say, oh, it's free cash, so we're not but you are levying tax,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, no,
Like-
I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying it
Right.
tends to be.
But I get it. That's the way people look
think-
at it.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I think it's a strategy to lower taxes by $3,500.
Yeah, which doesn't change
Which isn't
anything.
bad if you were not doing $3,500 items.
Instead
We'd
of
probably spend that-
126,300,000.
We probably spend that in professional fees at
So if
town
we
meeting
quit
for the people
nickel
who
and
run
diming,
the clicker.
Right.
we quit nickel and diming the free cash ones and
I
maybe
guess
funded.
the one thing of it being
equipment.
here is, generally speaking, if it was part of the rec budget, you would have no say whether you wanted to do it or not. And,
Sure we would.
well, we might recommend a different number by 3,500 less, but generally town meeting would have less say than they do by
Right.
voting these.
Just like
That's
the
my
rest of the
point.
rec department
Right.
Yeah.
activities.
Which I think is
move
fine.
on.
Let's move on.
I just want to make sure every year we spend more time talking about it.
Yeah, we spend more
than
time
anything
on the
else.
fish than we do fishing. Small business grant program, we've had them here before. Do you want an update
I
from
would like
them?
an
Yes,
update.
we want an update from them.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Because we gave them
goals.
goals and requests last
Yeah.
year. And we
It was
wanted-
actuy 2 years ago at it.
Was it really?
I think so by
Wow.
now.
And
we were
And
really
they did come
clear
back
on-
with some stuff last year and.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it
and I
gets
think
closer.
the goals and objectives we were really clear on like data gathering,
Yeah.
and so I think
Yep,
there
let's
was no
have
point
them
in that
back.
if we don't ask them to come back.
Okay, good. Elections, I don't think we really need, but if you want, we can have the clerk come, but it's just really, they've decided, because they don't put these in the budget anymore because they vary so much year to year, depending whether there's 5 elections or there's 3 elections, that it goes there.
I think the dollar amount seems reasonable. This one does make sense, I think, in free cash.
For that reason.
It's at least still enough money to
Yeah, okay.
make a
Well,
bigger difference.
some years it's huge.
Right, and that's
Right.
right, it's this huge variance.
Well,
Yeah.
this past year, because we
Right,
had
would've been
5
huge.
elections.
Yeah.
Between the primaries,
presidential,
local,
yeah.
residential, president, this primary,
This
that
one,
primary.
coming from free
Okay,
cash, it makes
next year's
Yeah.
got to be a pretty low election number, because it's the odd year, too. Okay, so that one we will say we're okay. Doesn't mean somebody can't change their mind and ask a question. Okay, capital improvement plan. We will hear from the fire department, so at the all-day summit, so I would, for now, I won't plan an additional. On the first 2, we'll hear the police department,
We're going to hear from everybody.
and we hear
listed on this article.
DPW, Public Works.
Recreation, school department.
Is rec presenting too? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
So
so
we'll wait till
let's,
after and decide.
right, right, and school department, okay. So we'll wait till after that to decide whether we want more information on certain ones, which usually ends up
I mean,
happening
the odds are good we're gonna wanna hear from
on
all of
something,
them.
yeah, right. But if the schools are coming, you could ask it then, or whatever, okay. All right, Article 13, we'll want to hear more about the rooftop community center.
Yeah.
I'll have to find out who would speak to that, actually.
So we could probably ask Christie.
Yeah, I mean, I know she would speak it, but I don't.
Well, she's probably the best
It depends
person
how
to speak to it because
technical
she's
you
been
want,
running the
the technical thing you
meetings.
want.
That's
so.
true. We could have the.
I mean, if we want to know, yeah, I don't know what everybody wants to know, but if you want to know real technical details of what that involves, it's not.
So we
general
had
Christie.
a
You're on the building
MVC
committee,
meeting
right.
today that did not have a quorum, but we did discuss this, and Jim Stewart gave some information in terms of background. I just asked to see the estimates. One of my concerns is they don't have to bid this project, so.
Well, and
That's
so
what I
I had
understand.
already asked as part of the community center meetings, because this had come up obviously in the community center meetings for information on, because there's a grant to offset a lot of the cost, and I
Yep.
wanted sort of the specifics on the grant.
Yep.
So it's possible by the time we get to talking about this, Rod and I will have all of the information we as a committee might need, so.
Okay, well, that's good.
There is-
I mean, I think there's advantage to doing this because there's no OPM costs, there's no architect costs, right?
Yeah.
If you do it this
So there
outside
is
that.
one thing that came up at the MVC meeting in terms of the cost for the pool pack is in this budget, and we don't get
Oh.
rebates for that. And the
Right.
thinking was that should be part of the pool article and not necessarily the
Ah.
HVAC article.
That's
Ah.
interesting, I didn't realize that.
Because if you're not gonna do the pool, you don't need the specialized
Right.
HVAC equipment.
Ha, okay, so we'll stay tuned. All right, the next 2 we're going to hear from rec department. Well, we'll see if they cover these or not at the meeting. They're a little more straightforward. I would like to hear from the Conservation Commission on this next one, Article 16. Because that's a big change from volunteer efforts on these things to town cleanup, and also just like to kind of know the plan of, okay, and does that mean next year it's 150,000, and then, I mean, what,
Well, and it seems like
what's the
a
plan?
pretty large amount, and I,
You bring in people to do tree cutting, it probably costs you thousands each
Right.
time.
Yeah.
agreed.
Rather than-
So I don't think it seems excessive for what
No.
we're doing, but it is a
Yeah.
large amount, and I think we're sort of
Yeah.
seeing increases every year. And
Yeah.
it goes to the point last year, I really asked, like, do we have a plan,
Right.
right? Like,
Yeah.
So
I was also wondering if we're gonna spend the money on it, do we have to hire outside people? Could the DPW
could the tree
do it?
warden do it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, now a lot of those trails are cleared by friends of ours who volunteer.
Understood. Yeah.
So,
Right.
But there's
And,
certainly
I
probably
understand
some that are
not
out
relying
of the
on
scope of what they
volunteers.
can do.
Right, exactly, but we certainly have
But
the
so
expertise in
at
town.
that point, could,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but,
we have a tree warden and a deputy tree warden,
Wow.
who are both certified arborists now. It was kind of
Right.
a big deal.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's find out more about that. Article 17, surveying, subdividing, and appraising senior center property. I don't know. Seems like a a thing we want to do if we're going to sell it. I don't know if we need more information or
I mean, there's
curious.
no amount in it yet, so I think
Yeah.
that probably, I'll
fair
see how
point.
I feel when I see the dollar amount.
Right. If there's a dollar amount in time for us to decide, or maybe we hold off to town meeting then. No, whatever. Okay, so that's,
Certainly not making a recommendation without a dollar.
right, exactly. But a lot of these,
I feel like
Have
this one, they
lately
should
just
have a
started,
dollar amount
yeah.
for the cost of surveying and subdividing. They should have a dollar
Right.
amount.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
they will.
all right. So we'll leave that off for now, but we can get more information if we need it. Rescind borrowing? I don't,
All right,
No,
anything.
all
I'm ready
right.
to vote on that now.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's fine, but there is nothing listed, so it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. We don't need
Yeah,
to
I mean,
guess.
I think this has to do with all the warrant articles that have money left over since
Right.
2015. So I
Right.
would encourage this list to be as large as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Because it seems like we're way behind.
Right.
yeah.
Well,
And
those
we've
are
read it up a
specific to
couple times.
borrows, not to articles.
What's that?
This is
Yeah, those
specific
aren't
to-
articles, those are just.
This is borrow articles. So their
Okay.
So
motivation is
authorized
probably
borrowing that we
is,
never borrowed.
and
Just
it
take
probably
away the
affects your
authorization.
credit because
Oh,
you had,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, this is just borrow, okay, I see.
Yeah, we should be able to rescind, I mean, I think the town finance and manager can pull back articles that
That
are
was my impression,
dead.
that they would close out.
But this is,
specific-
but we've authorized to borrow for 6 million. We've only used 5.8. If we take away the 200, then it's off the books and. I
So
think-
what happens, don't they have to have set-asides for articles that, I mean, somewhere money is set aside presumably for articles that we've approved that they haven't spent the money yet. Where's that money? You, Follow what I'm
Depends
saying?
what the article was for. If it's a borrow,
no, I'm
We
saying,
haven't
if you don't
borrowed it.
borrow, you take
Okay.
from free cash, $100,000, you spend
It
75.
sits there.
So you
It's
don't
free cash
actually
flow.
move
Until you
the
use
money, it's just authorized, right? Meaning you
Yeah.
could spend
So it's still
against
in
it.
free
So the
cash.
money's all still just
Okay, so it's
in the bank.
But does it
Right.
show
It's-
up as free cash
yeah,
in our,
until you use it.
Although I bet you there's
But
something
it's,
that has.
so there's a
there
difference
must be an
between
amount that's-
certifying free cash and money in the bank. So it
Right.
is
Right.
in the bank. No,
Yeah.
it wouldn't close
It's
out to
probably
free cash
allocated.
until they close those.
yeah. I mean,
It's not encumbered unless there's like a purchase order, right? So you'd ask that question. So encumbrance would mean like there's a purchase order or an
Yeah.
obligation to pay against it. So that's encumbered and it's pledged essentially.
Right.
So this is
So
just
if you
authorized.
if we'd authorized $10,000, you spent 9,500. The remaining 500 is not closed out to free cash, but it's also not encumbered. It's just in our bank account still. So it's in our
Walter,
best interest.
do you want me to say how I think it was done a number of years ago?
Oh, sure, John.
I think the question was what happens to money for articles that isn't spent. The way it worked back when I was on the finance committee like 10 years ago was that if you look at the chart of accounts, the full financial report you have, every article had its own line item in there somewhere, and it has the money that was allocated at the town meeting, the money that was spent. And my recollection 3 or 4 years ago, unspent money sits in that line item until the town meeting revokes its use somewhere else.
Yeah, no, well, I don't
Even
know.
if it
We
came
think
from-
there's more examples of once it's not needed that gets,
My
taken
understanding
away.
is it was just an administrative process to
Yeah.
close those out. That
well,
we-
anyway, why don't
But
we
we should
ask,
ask.
we'll ask the finance
Yeah.
team
So
about
the
that.
reason, part of my reason
Yeah.
for pushing it is I think we have more free cash than we say we do because we've got money sitting in these accounts that we know we're not gonna use.
If we know we're not gonna use it.
Right.
Right. I mean, some of those, they're gonna use it for that purpose, but it's years later.
Well,
Yeah.
2015. I mean,
Yeah. Okay, so that's something we should ask about, but, yeah, this other one, this article is specific to borrowing, because I think you have to do that at town meeting. Okay, I don't see any particular reason to hear any more about the library. I'm just kidding. So the library
Yeah,
will.
We're electing you to give that report.
Yeah, right, I'll give that report. So bids are out now, and the general contractor bids, after, the subs should come back first, but the general contractor bids, I think, are due on February 19th. So by the end of the month, we will have real numbers and have the committee here.
When does the warrant close?
The 25th, probably.
So
February.
after those bids are,
Yes, in
back.
theory, we should have
right.
or they put in a number that's larger and make a motion that's smaller at
Right.
town meeting, which is also possible. Right. But, yeah, in theory, if everything goes well, and one of
I'm
the,
sure it'll be smooth.
one of the little things that kind of got caught us was Shab Khan left, our person who was on the bids and stuff, and so there was about a 1 week little hiccup where we changed programs and things, but okay, anyway, that's moving forward. So that's definitely a guest, and that'll probably be the last week of February or early week of March. Okay, Sustainable Westborough, we'll want to hear from that, obviously. Affordable Housing Trust, I didn't read this thoroughly, but I think this is the standard transfer
The
from
Pulte
Pulte,
money.
so we're probably okay with that. Anybody disagree? Want to hear? Want to report?
Pretty sure this is the standard.
Yeah. All right, well, let's say it's okay for now. And we can change our mind later. They'll
I
probably ask
actually-
us if we want them to come anyway, so.
I actually might want to, if you look at the dollar amount last year versus this year. I mean,
It's
a third of what
it's
it was.
$200,000. That's usually for one of those buildings, I think, or whatever, however it works. Every year they give that much. Okay, we can have them here. I'm fine with that, too. We can look, we have time before we need to decide that. Okay, general bylaws. I'm not sure we'll get information at this budget meeting on those. And certainly from the planning board, we'll have to have them, right?
Yep.
So we may have to hear about the sewer. Oak Street, again, we'd probably want to hear. No, we'll have the planning board here, I guess, or the
Yeah.
town planner probably, actually,
Yeah.
not the board. For Articles 23, 24, 25, and 26. And that's it for now. That's all the articles
When's
we
the
got.
last day to place an article?
Well, in principle, I believe the warrant will be closed by the select board at their meeting on the 25th of February, but that's only my theory, not maybe fact. They have to close the warrant by, I think, 2 weeks before town meeting, but their meetings are Tuesdays, and also if they really only did it 2 weeks, we would be really screwed for time, because we have to finish our book a week ahead,
Yeah, right.
right? So, so they typically do it more like 3 weeks, 3 and a couple of days ahead, and I think that's when their meeting is. But that's my guess. Okay. So I have a list. I will start trying to reach out to some of those guests and see whether they can fit in our schedule. Looking at our schedule for next week, we are not going to meet Monday next week. Tuesday night, the select board is having a budget hearing during their meeting, which we should either attend or watch on Westborough TV. And then we'll have the all-day thing Thursday. So probably our next meeting, because you guys prefer Mondays, would be the Monday, a week from Monday. And then we might skip that Thursday, because I don't think we'll have our guests lined up in time yet for that. My educated guess. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the budget summit. Andrew is not able to attend tonight. I did relay some of his interest in having departments present opportunities for that they've realized for efficiencies, for weeding out things no longer needed, et cetera. But was there any other things that the people that are here today want to specifically ask to see beyond what they will present ahead of time? We'd have to be asking ahead of time, I guess.
Just piggybacking on what Mr. Savoy talked about, I'm very interested in understanding how we set the revenue projections. It's pretty clear based on the projections that we understate them with the idea that we can then use those for capital articles under free cash. And, you know, I understand that's a strategy. I'm not sure I agree with it.
I might argue that they probably understate them at this time of year because, one, it doesn't really matter till November what those projections are because that's when the tax rate's set. But two, if you overestimate them, then it's worse. So my point being is the estimated revenues at annual town meeting are less important than the estimated. The real important number is the estimated revenues at the, what do they call that? The thing where they set the tax rate. The tax rate hearing in November.
Yep.
By November, you actually probably have a better idea of how the year is going than we're talking about fiscal 26 revenues that don't even start till next July, and it's January right now. So that's the real important number to have right is later on than at this one.
Yeah, I mean, I did, and maybe I'm making this up, but I do remember John saying that they were more aggressive on estimating revenue this year.
He did say that to us.
Because we
It doesn't look like that right now.
It certainly doesn't.
However, that might be because they sandbag for Springtown meeting and then they true it up. I mean, if you looked at, and I haven't done it yet, but if you looked at what they were, not what they estimated in October, November of this year for this year, but what they were doing at annual town meeting for this fiscal year, maybe he is being more aggressive now. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but that's, so in other words, by the time we get around to November, maybe it will look like they're being more aggressive.
I'm curious.
And
to
it's
see
just
what-
not, because we're comparing, you know.
I'm curious to see what November looks like
Yeah.
compared to actual, right? Like,
Yeah.
what does budget to November look like, and what does November to actual look like, right? Or
Yeah,
we
well, we
sort
know
of-
what November to actual looks like for prior years.
Right.
What I haven't mean to look back at is what does town meeting to November look
Right.
like? I haven't done that yet, but
So how do you know November, where do you get the November numbers?
it's what's reported and all the stuff. It's what Mr. Savoy's numbers are,
I assume
the
his
November
numbers
numbers.
were November numbers, but I don't know.
except for this year.
Depends when you got it. Yeah.
Which
But
is,
that's the previous year, right?
well, this year's November number, we won't know till November.
Right.
But we'll know last year's town meeting number.
Right.
We'll just have to go back and get it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I'm
I-
sort of
I-
curious to see the whole leapfrog trend and
Right,
see
right.
with the whole picture, how do I feel?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's
Right, so
that's the missing piece
certainly-
I've got right now.
Yeah, some discussion of revenue is relevant, though probably very relevant for us to revisit in September, right? Because that's really when if you still are underestimating it, you're going to have a different tax rate.
Right.
But I would argue you're making decisions based on these revenue projections. And if they're off by 20%, then that's not an accurate reflection of some of the
Sure.
decisions. I mean, if the taxes are only going to go up $600 versus $900, you might have a different opinion about something.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I can see too, you wouldn't want to say taxes are only gonna go up $600 and have them go up $9. But could we get it to,
Can we get closer?
could we
Right,
get
right,
closer?
right.
Right,
It should
can
be
we
$1.
not be 30% off, could we be
Right.
10?
Yeah.
Right, when you're budgeting at a place that can't go over ever, you're gonna guarantee probably at least you're always 5% under or something, you know, because you can't go anywhere to this side, so you have to be on.
But that's,
But, yeah.
that's on the,
Right,
that's
right,
on
right.
the
On
expense side.
on revenue,
We get it on
you
both
could
sides.
hopefully get closer.
Right.
But you
It
can't
has
s-
been somewhat of a little bit of a challenge with the transition of COVID and all that other stuff lately, but hopefully we're getting more stable.
Yeah, I mean, we
because we're years past that now, and
Right.
hotels are back in action or whatever, meal tax, food tax should be pretty consistent,
Yeah.
right?
Well, hotel's not
Well,
quite back, but
well, we don't have that many hotels, do we?
yeah, that's true.
Okay, anybody else have? That's cool. All right, it'll be an interesting conversation on Thursday. A week from Thursday. Okay. Future draft agenda, I think we covered, they're all pretty much going to be based on the warrant at this point in our livelihoods. Liaison reports. Any updates? Any more
So
from the
the
building? committee?
update from the non-MBC meeting, because we didn't have a quorum, but, based on previous meetings, as we know, we had a meeting about the community centers being delayed until at least next fall, to allow the library to go first. I've asked that we get an accounting of where we left off with the existing OPM and architect to make sure we understand the deliverables of what they're giving us now and what they haven't done, just so we get that squared away. The one thing that came up, this is a little outside MVC, but I think it's an interesting topic. In talking to Pete Dunbeck, who was sitting in on the meeting, he said we have, and I don't know where this is tracked, we have more electrical rebates than we do have electrical costs. And, this has to do with how we, and he could explain it much better than me, but, we buy solar tax credits and all that sort of thing. And those get set based on the national grid rate, and the national grid rate is higher now, so we're getting a larger amount of those. He says we don't have enough cost for electricity to take advantage of all those rebates, which seems counterintuitive to all the electrical costs we see rising on every department. So getting a better understanding of how we pay for electrical and how the rebates get accounted for, I'd be interested in.
Yeah, sounds interesting. You're thinking?
You may know more than me.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Seems hard to believe.
I think I remember that the bill comes in through the departments, but then the rebate goes to the general fund.
Oh,
Then, but it still doesn't make sense what Pete is saying, because that would mean that we're getting more in rebates than we're paying electricity. I don't buy that.
I didn't either, so I'd like to understand more.
Yeah, but maybe that's not what he means. Maybe there's something else.
Maybe
going
there's
on.
some percentage there that you can
Yeah.
only get,
Yeah.
worth understanding better.
Anybody else? Prasant's been following the snow budget, but so far moving along. And as I mentioned, the library's been meeting every couple weeks, getting ready for the actual numbers. They see how they come out versus the estimate. We're cautiously optimistic because apparently the numbers have been coming in a little lower than expected lately versus higher for a change, because people are a little more looking for work. So we'll see whether that actually happens or not. Be a good thing. And I'm trying to think of, yeah, I did, at the last finance team meeting, I did remotely, so I wasn't as active a participant in it, because that's when I had COVID. Okay, so no more to report there. So, let's see. Approval of minutes. I need a motion to approve the minutes of January 6, 2025. Somebody make a motion?
We just always assume Gene's going
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Yeah,
moved.
Gene always moves things.
Big man, I move to accept the minutes of January 6, 2025.
Clap second.
Okay, so we have a motion and
Sorry, we
second. Is there any discussion of those minutes? If not, I think everybody's here. All in favor?
I was absent in that Jan 6th.
Okay,
Well,
so do you want to vote or not
You
vote?
can
Or
you can
abstain?
abstain.
Okay, so it's 501. And Prashant is the abstaining. Very good. Okay, so we will next meet for sometime early in the morning on Thursday the 30th.
What time does it start?
I have the agenda here. Yeah, something like 8:30 a.m.
When's it supposed to go to?
It usually ends around 3:34. Usually by the end, the discussion wears out because people are too tired, but yeah. 8:30 is the start time on the agenda I have. And then 3:15 is the last topic. But like I said, that one sometimes doesn't go that long, but
What's the last
anyway,
topic?
we'll be done by 4. Annual town meeting warrant and budget discussions, additional discussion. So if we've already done all our discussions during the day, sometimes there isn't that much more to wrap up.
So the minutes that you distributed
Yeah,
are from November 18.
I sent the wrong ones out. Well, then how would you have approved it?
Well, that was my question.
No, I just sent out
No, there was a
these
later one.
ones.
Yeah. You sent it
I
out.
think you're at the wrong email. I sent them out just a day or two ago.
Yesterday,
Yeah, they were November 18th.
the email that you sent out material for Thursday's January 23rd meeting,
Yep. It's got the wrong minutes.
yeah,
Oh,
it's got the wrong minutes.
so you're saying
Did
you
we ever
haven't read it?
approve the,
Yes.
We did,
Yeah, they're all
okay.
done.
okay.
I thought I just printed them, oh, maybe I didn't. Wow. All right, well, you guys should have noticed that when I sent it, right?
But you had sent the other ones earlier, I'm sure, because I remember reading them.
Yeah, well, I knew I had read them, and I knew that they were fine,
Yeah.
which is why, but I also, something seemed off, which is why I didn't make the motion. Because I was digging through to go, wait a minute, it's not the January 6th ones that I read.
That's the agenda, this is the draft minutes. All right. Hold on. It says minutes 13, yeah. Okay, all right. Well, then let's scrap that vote. And, so you guys haven't read them?
Yeah, no.
Okay. I'll
But
send them out
we
for.
all
All
approved the November
ones
13
were
twice.
fine.
Yeah.
right, well, there's no point to that.
18, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I just went through this. Okay, so we need
Do you
to.
want to approve them next Thursday?
No, I don't care about that.
What's that?
You mean at our full
The
day
next
meeting?
time we meet, rather than sit here and read them now and approve them,
Oh, no, I don't,
Okay.
I will approve them another time.
fine.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, good.
at a
I think
future
that was my
meeting.
point.
That's
That
what
was my
Gene was
point.
checking.
Yeah,
Yeah, future meeting,
yeah.
which would be Monday, the, whatever that is, of February. Yeah. No, we're not gonna read them now.
All right, just making sure.
That would be a bad idea. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Clap second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, Westborough TV.